Hello. So Jennifer Brownsnick here. So we had Malika and I were going to have a radio interview starting at 1 o'clock, but apparently there was some sort of accident in Queens, which is where my radio show is hosted, and so therefore they have no power. But since Malika and I are both mothers and entrepreneurs. We're used to sort of rolling with the punches and just figuring it out when something doesn't go as we planned. So I didn't want to pass up this opportunity to chat with Malika, really, more about life and passion and fun for this whole I guess now we have like a half hour, which is still good. So welcome, Malika. Introduce you a little bit. So Malika has a business called Mikifoto and Co. She's a brand photographer and a brand story strategist who works with women entrepreneurs, inspiring them to express themselves, share their stories, and unleash their creativity through photography, branding, and live workshops. She's amazing. Ended many of them in the past and is also an amazing connector and collaborator, and lives an amazing life. If you just follow her on Instagram, you can see all the fun things that Malika is up to. So why I wanted to have Malika on the Mindful Family radio was because I think you have such an amazing message and story about why it's so important to have a passion. So I'm hoping that you can share with me and now our watchers a little bit about that story. So how did you go from, having no business into now having this amazing, thriving, passion-fueled business?
So first, thank you for having me. It's always so nice to chat with you, Jen. So that's a big question, and it definitely didn't happen overnight. I think, 9 years ago, I started my business in photography. But even before then, I had some other entrepreneurial ventures that I had tried out just because, while I was a mom raising two young kids, I always had that itch to sort of do something for myself or to do something more. But when you're a young mom and you have young kids, sometimes those dreams sort of go in the back burner and you're, much more focused on raising your family and everybody else's needs before yours. But I think I got to a point where I felt really lost, to be honest. I felt like I lost that person I was when I was single or when I had started my career. So prior to having kids, I worked in advertising and marketing in big agencies in big cities like New York and San Francisco. And I worked on brands like L'Oreal and Oil of Olay. And I was on a path, like a corporate path to being an executive and doing well. But you get married and you have children, and I opted out of that corporate life because my husband is a physician, and so his training as a doctor in surgery was quite intense and took us all across the country. And so I knew that I had to kind of put my dreams on the back burner and think of the bigger picture, which was his career, which is not easy. If you are, a bright, smart, energetic person, it's not easy to do that and all of a sudden immerse yourself in raising family. Although I love being a mom, but again, it was that itch of trying to do something to fulfill myself. And so for a long time, I just sort of dabbled in different things, but it wasn't until 9 years ago when my older two sons were 3 and 5 that I had a camera that came into my hands, and I was living in California, and my family was here in New Jersey and New York, and I just felt like I needed to share the story of my children so that my family, faraway family, would know them. And part of that process was also this love for storytelling, on all of a sudden this creativity that I never had before through the lens of a camera, that now I could tell the story of my family and also learn a new craft in a way that was a lifeline for me, honestly. And I would learn as much as I could about the camera. I lived in California, so the light was just beautiful and the weather was perfect, so you could always be outside. And the next thing I knew, I was taking pictures of friends' kids, and then I was the kindergartner photographer. And it just all of a sudden ignited this new passion of creativity, which I really never had before. I was much more of like a business, client relations type of person, which was more in the strategy versus the creativity part. And here I had this whole new world of using the camera as a tool to tell my children's stories so that we could be connected to my family that wasn't close by, and I could sort of fill in those gaps of that loneliness that I was feeling at the time. And then fast forward, every year after learning the craft, becoming, studying, taking classes, workshops, reading as much as I could because I'm completely self-taught. I think, when you find something that you really love, all of a sudden, even though you're busy with your kids, even though there's never enough time in the day, you make the time, you figure out how to sort of nurture that new passion that you have.
Yeah. So one, I love that now. So now you have this creative side that you are bringing to the table. But, since you shifted, so originally you were doing more of these, like the family side of things and family portraiture and, holiday pictures and things like that. And now you're doing more, for businesses and branding and, you've figured out a way to blend now both of this side plus the strategic side that I think business owners have to have. Like, you kind of need to have that blend. So you're so busy, like you have a lot going on. So what are like the 3 tools that you use to get stuff done, to squeeze in that time on your business? Because I get it. I'm also passionate about things. And I think it becomes for me almost like an addiction of okay, I have to finish this book. Maybe not always the most healthy ways, but for you, how do you squeeze it in?
So yes, it's like being that multi-passionate kind of a person can sometimes be a curse because you're all over the place and you want to learn and you want to do everything. So 3 things that help me. One, I'm sort of old school. I have a paper to pen planner. I write everything down and I really try to stick to that schedule. So even if there are times where it's strategic time where I want to think bigger about my business, I will chunk that out. If it's, content creation time, I have to chunk that out. If it's the dentist and the doctor and the after school activities for my kids, everything is written. I mean, it's like I cross everything out and I have that pleasure of crossing things out. And I don't think I'll ever go to a digital calendar because of that. But so I live and die by my planner. The second thing is I wake up early. I wake up every day at 5:30. That is sort of my practice in, when I wake up at 5:30, I spend 30 minutes and I read whatever fiction, nonfiction, and that sort of grounds me and gives me my time. And if I allow myself to do that, I feel like I'm so much more productive. I'm so much more focused. So that sort of daily ritual is very helpful. And then the third thing, which you're a part of, Jen, is that accountability. So Jen and I are in this mastermind where we're with 5 other, women who are all very driven. We all are mompreneurs and we sort of keep each other in check. And we hold each other accountable, but we also motivate each other by sharing what we're doing and have that support. I think having that group really helps me get things done and to keep moving forward. And also it helps me figure out what I shouldn't be doing. Because I have people who will say to me, listen, maybe you need to focus, maybe that's out of your range. And I think, there are a lot of other things that help me, but I think those are the first three that come to mind.
So it's interesting. So I love our accountability group, and I'm in a couple other groups. And, people always say, surround yourself with people that are like 3 steps ahead of you so that you can, sort of they've led the way in a sense. But sometimes what I notice is that I go into this like comparing place of like, oh my gosh, like they're doing this, like I should be there. So how do you handle that? It's like almost like that mindset piece around, trusting that you're in the right, the timing is right. And do you have any tools or practices for those?
Yeah, I think it's tough. It's like with social media, you get to see everybody's highlight reel. Everything looks glossy and perfect. So like a mantra that I always say to myself and to even some of my clients that I work with is like, always put your blinders on, be careful about what you're seeing and how you're letting it influence your work. Like rather than looking what everybody else is doing, spend that time and look at your own personal best and how you can get better every single time. Because I think we can fall into the trap of when we look at everybody else and we're comparing. Sometimes we start copying, and sometimes we become so influenced by what everybody's doing that we either copy exactly what they're doing and we don't make it our own, or we get stuck because we feel like everyone's better than us, and then we get paralyzed and then we don't do anything. So there's these 2 extremes, which I don't think is helpful for anybody's business or their personal mindset. So instead, I try to just focus on, what did I do yesterday, last month, last 6 months, and how can I keep moving forward? It's not easy because there are lots of bright and shiny objects everywhere. And I just went through a whole ritual of unsubscribing to tons of stuff that I have to just get rid of it and cut it out because it just gets me bogged down or it makes me feel bad. And, I have to think about who I am right now. Like I'm a mom, I have 3 kids. Like some of these people that are killing it, they don't have any kids. And it's not like I'm taking away from their success. That's great. But you know what? I have a different lifestyle. I can work from 8:30 to 2:30, and then it's my kids and it's my family. And then my weekends are with my family. So when I think about that, I think, you know what? I'm doing pretty good for how my lifestyle is. And if I am going to compare myself to anyone, or look to models, I'm going to look to people who share the same lifestyle as me, and not look to other people that might have more time or more resources. It's, you can't compare that because it's not apples to apples.
Totally. So you found your passion. Now, where do you get inspiration? Like, because my whole idea is that, moms, we need to be calm, confident, and inspired. But everybody's different. Where do you, like, when do the ideas drop in? Like, when do you know, okay, I want to take this road, or, I'm going to pursue this avenue?
So I would say a few things. I think reading to me just allows me to escape and to learn new things, or just the whole storytelling aspect is really inspiring to me. Travel is huge for me. If I could travel like all through the year, I would do it. Just, leaving your home, what you're used to, and going to a new place where there's just different smells and sights and sounds, and you can see how different people live and different colors, different foods. That whole experience somehow gets my creative juices flowing, and I'm able to sort of think in a different way because I'm not doing the same thing every single day. So definitely, get out of your house, get out of, your routine and try new things. And if you can't travel, take the train to New York, go to a new nearby town and try out a new coffee shop, but just try to like break up the routine with something new. Also learning, I think you can never stop learning. And so invest in, a class. It could be something totally out of your industry. So like maybe it's like a pottery class, or, maybe it's a public speaking class, something that's really going to get you out of your comfort zone. Because I think when we stop feeling passionate is when we get stuck, when we just are like coasting. And so if you want to spark that fire, you kind of need to shake things up a little bit, and that could mean taking a new course or going to an event by yourself, like things like that. But taking the action, and not just learning, but implementing. I think that combination is sort of the ticket to really growing yourself as a person.
Yeah. I think to that point, it's also, not doing it with any sort of expectation. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to do, this thing because I want to, bring in X number of dollars to my business.
Right.
But I think it's more important to have the energy of, I'm doing this because I'm curious and I want to learn something new. I think most areas, at least in this area, has some sort of an adult school. And I mean, there are so many classes that you can take, and they're like almost free, basically. Like at one point I was going to write a children's book. So I took a children's book writing class. I took a Qigong class, which is like Chinese movement of some sort, like energy.
Awesome.
And it's great. Like you can do, sometimes it's like one night, sometimes it's like over time. But I love that. I love that idea of, just
I think I took a watercoloring class in South Orange, and that was great because I think it just, you're able to just think in a different way. And that allows you to sort of tap into new creativity or a new part of your brain. And you never know what can lie beneath. Like it could be something that then leads you to a new direction that can lead you to your passion. So,
well, it's like you've read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
I love that book. That's a great book.
Yeah. So, I mean, she talks about, kind of like following that curiosity. Like she started her last book, like, cause she got really curious about plants. And so just this, started gardening. And then that led to this, an amazing book that started just because she was curious. So it's that, I think that idea that it's just so much more subtler than that. So something else that just came up for me, so when you take these classes, so I think a lot of moms, a lot of, mompreneurs are just, they're wanting connections. They're wanting new friends. And I think of you as someone with like a really amazing network. How do you find friends, or how have you in the past to build your community?
So I think it's about creating relationships, like doing the work and investing the time and not being afraid to reach out to someone. So, I'm very active networking online, like in different Facebook groups. And that is where you might feel a little bit more disconnected because it's virtual. But in a way, you can be even more connected because there's so many people at your access. So, things that I've done to cultivate some of those online relationships are, virtual coffee chats, guest blog posts where we can help each other with our business. Making, and then once you have those virtual coffee chats where you know what that person does and why they do it and what they're good at, anytime I will see a post asking, like for example, if someone's asking for a copywriter, I have a friend, Abby Herman, who is a great copywriter who I met virtually that I will just tag. And then, she in return might do the same for me. So it's making the time to meet face to face, be it virtually or in person, learning about that other person, what they do, why they do it, asking questions, not always thinking of what you can get in return, but it's that give, give, get, mentality. And then, fostering that relationship through helping each other, supporting each other, connecting to other people if they need help. I think a lot of the way my brand has grown is because I'm kind of a connector. And, if anyone needs help with something, I'll try to kind of go through my virtual Rolodex and try to make those connections. And it's just a win-win for everyone. I don't see it as something that I want to, get something in return, or there's no referral fee. I kind of don't play by those rules because I think, especially as moms, we're just nurturing creatures. We want people to succeed and to do well. I take that same mindset into business, and maybe it's like the personal and the professional being merged a little bit. But I think that's how I've built my network, is through just real authentic connection and relationship building.
So with that, with this huge network, with, social media, with in person, how do you decide on your boundaries? How do you decide on work time and play and all of that stuff?
I mean, it's tough. There's no like set rule that I have. It's maybe it's more like a gut check where, over time, I think because I have experience now, I've been in business for 9 years. I'm not a new mom. My kids are older. I feel more confident on what I'm capable of. But I could definitely get stuck in somewhere too much stuff is coming my way and I can't say no because it's a friend asking for help and they want me to be involved. But I'm getting better at trying to, set boundaries and going back to, does this fit with the mission of what I'm doing my business for in the first place? Will it take away from the time that I really need to be with my family? What's the return on investment, and it's not a monetary thing. It's like, if I'm going to be involved in whatever's coming my way, is it going to come back in a way of building relationships, expanding my network, building my brand? It's not always sales. You know what I mean? There are other factors that I have to consider because there are only 24 hours in the day. And so you have to be careful. And I'm a mom of 3 kids. And so, and I don't want to work 24/7. So I think, this year I'm really trying to create more space in my business so that I don't feel like a hamster in a wheel. And I'm trying to be much better. But there were definitely years before I'd say yes to everything because you just feel like you have to do it to grow your business. But I would say, be careful of that, because if you don't set firm rules in the beginning, those are hard habits to break later.
Right. That, probably end up burning you out or
Yes.
not serving in a way that you intend, like you want to, keep your brand very strong.
Right.
So I do want to talk a little bit about photography and branding. And so I know you have, so many, events and workshops that, are geared toward, having your best face forward. How does someone that, isn't necessarily ready to invest in like a huge brand photography package, like how can they get, have some, a few pictures that they can use for branding materials? Any pointers?
So I think, so brand photography is an investment. This is customized storytelling, photos that are in a library that, you as a business owner can share with your audience that describes all the layers of your business. So yes, that is a big investment to make. So if you are going to put a face to your brand, which everybody should, then I would say, let's definitely start with your headshot. Everybody needs a headshot. That is the common denominator for people in business. If you don't have a headshot, a professional one, I feel like you risk not being seen as a professional or legitimate or as a leader. If you're using like a selfie or you're cropping another image, how can people take you seriously if you yourself are not investing in some of these professional services? So I think if you're going to do anything, then invest in a headshot. And you should be able to get a headshot, from $100 to like whatever, $500. There's always a range. There's always different photographers. So I would say make that investment for your business. You'll see that come back to you in terms of clients and sales quickly if you do. The second is, if you want to tell more storytelling type of images, you can do it yourself with your phone if you want. There are definitely photo stories you can share using your smartphone because our phones now have such good cameras. And I would tell people, don't hesitate in sharing your story because you can't invest in professional brand photography. I would say use your phone to tell stories about your brand. Maybe they're not like shots of you that are professional looking at your desk, but they could be shots of your desk, what you're working on, your to-do list, so that there you're sharing with your audience what you're involved in. What are the steps that it takes to get the job done? Share photos of where you're going. Are you going to the networking events? Are you at a conference? Are you taking a class? And then there you're sharing the story that you're always educating and trying to better yourself. So there's like a million stories that you can tell, by snapping them with your smartphone. But, be careful and try to create like a look. You don't want your feed to look random. You want to make sure that everything's in focus and it's well lit, like the basics of using your smartphone for photography. But, that's one way to do the DIY approach. To incorporate photos and brand story. Another way I would say is, maybe you have a friend who's also an entrepreneur and you have a camera and you can take photos of each other. And so again, they might not look like the professional photos that maybe I would take, but they could still be good enough for you to start spreading your message and sharing who you are as a business owner versus just, having your logo up or having, photos of your work. So one of the things is like for web designers or graphic designers, sometimes I feel like they only showcase the portfolio and they don't put their face to the brand. And so that might be a way for you to do that. Using your phone or finding someone to take pictures, a friend. Another way is barter. Maybe you can barter with a photographer if you have services that they need. And then you can kind of get maybe 10 or 15 professional photos on your website that you can then use also in your social media. So those are 3 ways that I would suggest that you get some photos of your face or your story into your brand story.
Okay. What do you feel about stock photos? Because, there's so many websites now. I mean, do you feel like if they feel like your brand, where do you think they have a place? I guess.
So I think that's another option to economically build your brand library is to invest maybe in some they're calling it styled stock photos where, you could choose colors or themes that are in alignment with your brand. I would just say beware that other people are purchasing that too.
Right.
And so, the whole point of brand photography and, sharing our message and using images as a tool is to differentiate ourselves so that people know who we are, so that they choose us when they're ready to make that investment for your product and service. So when you purchase styled stock photography as your only way of communicating your brand, if it's your only way, then you need to be careful because it wasn't customized for you. So you might be showing up like somebody else in your industry. So it's just something to be careful of. I love styled stock photography. And so, you can purchase some, but then also have your brand photography and then your DIY instead of all together. Make sure it all fits what your brand story and message is. I think that's probably the best combo than just relying on one of them.
So we're in our final minutes. Is there any message that you want other moms or mompreneurs to hear? What do you think they need to hear right now the most?
So maybe just going back to the theme of passion, I think it's so important as moms that we find something that fulfills us, that lights our fire. And I think, sometimes we could make the excuse that it's not the right time or it takes away from the family. But I think if you are a mom who has something that they love and is passionate, you are a better mom. Sure, some of your time is going to be taken away from your family and your life might be chaotic like mine and messy and crazy. But I really believe that my kids, I hope, and I do believe that they'll look at me at the end of the day and years from now and be proud that I had something of my own that I, invested my time in and that made me happy and filled my tank, and that I was a better mom because I modeled that behavior for them. And so do the work, get quiet with yourself, get a journal, write, brain dump, talk to friends, figure out, what lights you up, and don't be afraid to pursue it.
I love that. Great message. I concur. Well, thank you, Mallika. Can you please share your website and also if you have any events that are coming up?
Sure. So you can find more about me at mikifoto.com, which is MIKOFOTO.com. And if you're local to New Jersey, I am having a photo styling workshop coming up on April 21st, where I am teaching how to use your smartphone to create visual content. If you need, visuals for blogs or Instagram or social media. So that is coming up, but I also do, as you said, brand photography, where I work with women entrepreneurs and really try to tap into their unique story and their brand foundation, and then create a visual strategy of a library of images that they can use for all of their marketing needs. So if that sounds like something you need, I would love to, talk to you further about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for being so flexible when we couldn't have this on the radio. But this was really fun. And I'm so grateful to have you as a friend and for you to agree to come on the show for me. And I'm sure I will see you very soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's always fun.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.